Hey there, Aubrey. How's everything going today?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. I am so excited about today's episode to get into something super interesting that is going to be really relevant to our listeners. Are you ready for this?
Yes, I love cultural conversations. I love a deep dive into the psyche a little bit. This is going to
Yes.
be interesting.
Yeah. Here at this All Ears English, we like to think about things on a deeper level, right? We're not just teaching English here, guys. We're not just talking about language. We're talking about life. Okay. So this came up yesterday as I was teaching our live group class, and we talked about the word to eclipse, right? When something becomes more important than something else. And Jasmine from our group said that her life and other hobbies are eclipsing her work. And she said she is quiet quitting. And I got so excited when she said that word because all of us in the class, all six of us perked up. We said, oh, wow. I've heard about this in the news. I've read a few articles. Aubrey, have you read a little bit about this concept of quiet quitting?
I had not heard about this until you sent me this New York Times article, and I am fascinated. I'm not, I have four kids. I don't actually have a lot of chances to watch the news or just browse on social media, right? So I like work and then I'm helping my kids. So I don't, unfortunately, always get this interesting cultural information. So I'm grateful I had this chance to read up on it and that we'll be able to chat about it because it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's okay. I read the news all the time and I miss stuff. I miss huge things. So it's okay.
Right. And this is very new. So some of
Yeah,
you out there may not have heard of this, like I had not. A lot of you may have heard of it, but not be really clear exactly what it is or how you feel. You might not have really made up your mind. So it'll be
exactly.
interesting. Kind of come along with us on this conversation and just think about
Yes.
it. What do you think about this as well?
Right. Yes, I love it. So I'm going to just refer to a quote from the New York Times. Jim Harder, who is a scientist at the Gallup poll. Gallup is a company that does, research on people, right? Surveys and research on society and culture. So he described quiet quitting as people that are basically not engaged, those who show up to work and do the minimum amount required, but not much else. And kind of a shocking stat was that he found at Gallup that more than half of the workers surveyed by Gallup who were born after 1989, that's interesting, 54% of them fall into this category of quiet quitting, right? This idea, okay?
This is
So first,
fascinating.
let's send our listeners to some places they can do first to do some reading on their own, right? And then we'll start to talk about this. Where can they go first? I personally love the Wall Street Journal because it takes an
Yes.
economic perspective on things. Yeah.
Yes, I do too. So definitely there's a Wall Street Journal article called Gen Z Coworkers Are Quiet Quitting. Here's what that means.
Yep.
We'll link this on the blog and definitely check it out. Come see the blog, allearsenglish.com.
Yes.
And the New York
Mm-hmm.
Times also had a very good article, right, Lindsay?
Yep, about quiet quitting and kind of I guess the term did arise on TikTok is what I'm seeing from these
Yes.
articles, right? But
Well,
it's
and
so
because it's a
much
hashtag and it's
it's a
shared, so there's thousands
hashtag.
of videos
Okay.
now. So even if it did arise somewhere else, I think you're right, but that's where it blows up
That's where it
because
blows up.
people are sharing and seeing other
Yes.
videos and that it gets traction.
Exactly. So that's how we're talking about it, but it's happening obviously beyond TikTok, right?
Yes,
So check
definitely.
that out. And then there's a language oriented article, which we're going to revisit another day on what the Daily Mail. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So from the UK, they have some really great vocab terms that are being created on social media, on TikTok, and really being adopted into our vocabulary that are all related to
Yes.
this.
Hmm.
So stay tuned. Make sure you follow. And in an upcoming episode, we'll share some of that vocabulary.
Yes, I love it. So, in your words, Aubrey, what is quiet quitting in your mind? What does it mean? What are they
I
doing? What are people doing when they're doing this?
I've seen a few different quotes to where there are extremes or there's somewhere in the middle. And the in the middle, it's just about work-life balance, where
Hmm.
they're trying to make
Yeah.
sure their job is not the most important thing in their life. It's
Yeah.
family, it's
Hmm.
fate, whatever it is,
Hmm.
right? It's not just your job. And we've always talked about needing that work-life balance.
Yes.
But then I see the opposite extremes where that idea of putting in bare minimum effort, like punching a time card and being there 9 to 5 and doing as little as possible, that
Yes.
makes my skin skin crawl
Me too.
because I was raised with a very strong work ethic.
Yes.
And that extreme, I really am, I don't want to work with anyone who has that attitude. I don't want my
Yes.
daughters to have that attitude. So that extreme, as well as the extreme of having your job be the only thing that's important and you're checking
Yes.
email all day long and not having that balance,
Yeah.
both I think are problematic.
Yeah, you're right. There's something very triggering for me too about this. And it is funny because we've been waiting for a moment in history and we got it at the pandemic. I would venture to say this is probably a shift due to the pandemic, right?
Yes.
Because, before and after, we're going to look back in 100 years and see there was a clear change, right?
Definitely.
I mean, why do you think that happened, Aubrey?
Well, part of it was the shift to working from home,
Yep.
which really lent toward those of us who already had a strong work ethic. It really changed nothing. You and I were already working from home. Nothing changed.
Didn't change anything.
But for a lot of people who went to work 9 to 5 and only really worked hard because there was supervision there. And then once they were home, they realized I can do the same amount of work in 2 hours that I was doing from 9 to 5. So that's still the amount of work I'm going to do. That I feel like created this mental shift. And that was really the gateway to this attitude, I think.
Yeah, it was. And, the reason that I think this is really interesting is because there's a certain group. I mean, you have kids in this age group, right?
Yes.
Who are entering the workforce, seeing this as possibly the model, like someone just 5 years ahead of them at their workplace who they might admire more than the 45 or 50-year-old who's in another, the C-suite, right? That person 5 years older than them, they might see them doing this. And is this going to become the norm for kids who are 18 to 22? Right?
This is my fear. I am petrified, which
Yeah.
means very scared that this would be for my daughter. So reading this article, I felt like I need to have a serious conversation with them about work ethic. I understand they're teenagers right now. When I was a teenager, I clocked in at night. I probably did bare minimum, but there was supervision to make sure that I was, earning my hourly paycheck, whatever. But once they are older, I need them to have that work ethic to where they're proud of a job well done, to where they're a valuable asset to a company. It's valuable to me, and I want it to be for them as well.
Yeah, because there is something. So yes, we don't want to get all of our satisfaction in life from our work, but there's something about feeling like you're doing good work, you're doing work that matters, and you're doing it as the best you can. Right? That's very satisfying. Something as human beings, I think we need that.
We need that validation, right? It's not just the validation of a paycheck. It's the validation of the respect of your coworkers, of feeling the success of doing something well, and whether you get credit or what. It's not about that. It's knowing that intrinsic knowledge of knowing you did that well. You are skilled. You are talented. That there's value in that, and just your overall self-worth.
Yeah, I love that you have that, Aubrey. That's really admirable. I think pretty much everyone on our team has that, or everyone on our team has that. Otherwise,
pretty
they
much.
wouldn't
Come on,
be.
Lindsay.
Everyone does. They wouldn't be working at All Ears English because we hustle here. We really hustle. We always have. But part of the reason we're able to is because we have meaning behind our work. It comes back to connection, helping our listeners connect, right, with the human being in front of them. But there's also the other side here, the economy, the role of managers and of companies. There's another article that I haven't read yet, but I would point our listeners to if they're really interested in. The title of this second article is, "If your quiet quitting is going well, you might be getting quiet fired."
Ooh.
Okay, so that's the other side. So as our young teenagers are coming into this working world, they may be thinking, everything's going great. I'm doing just the amount of work I want to do, nothing more. But there's another side. They have a manager, they have a boss, they have a company, and the company has a P&L, a profit and loss. And in the end, if you're not creating value at a company, you could be fired easily. In the US, it's not hard to get fired, right? Compared to other countries.
Layoffs are very common.
Yes.
You don't want to be first on the list, where if there are layoffs, you're the first one they think of, right?
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that we're in a moment now where employees do have a little more power, right? Because it's a weird moment we're in with the recession. We don't know if there's an impending recession. We don't know what's happening. But I think post-pandemic, employees have a little bit more negotiation power. But in the end, a company needs to pay their bills and make a profit.
Yes, but
That's
not only
business.
that, when you're at a job, it shouldn't really be just about maintaining. I know our
Yeah.
listeners, this is going to resonate with you. You want that promotion, you want to improve, you don't want to feel like there's a ceiling. And that
Yeah.
promotion, that moving up in a company or moving on to another better job is going to be much harder if you're quiet quitting, right?
Yes, I know there's an expression in the world of, of the better, like not better, but like tech companies or consulting companies where they have the concept of up or out, right? You're either progressing up, moving through up the company, or you should be out.
Or
You
you're
get
moving
fired or
out.
you whatever. You're just not a valuable asset because they
Yes.
want people that are going to be wanting to move up in the company.
Right? If
No,
you're not moving up, are you in the right role?
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. But I do think, just to swing to the other side here, Aubrey, I do think hustle culture, when it comes to the world of entrepreneurship, it was very trendy when online business first became popular in about 2010, 2012, up until 2019, up until March 15th of 2020, hustle culture was hot.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There was a lot of talk about staying up all night, drinking the Red Bull, whatever you need to build your business and don't sleep. Hustle, hustle, hustle. I think that is changing a little bit.
Yes, I agree. It was everything. Especially imagine like Wall Street people, but for
Yeah.
lots of jobs, it was putting in all the hours you could, checking your email all the time. It was very respected. It was very valued. And that's why we started talking about work-life balance, because a lot of people didn't have it. A lot
Yeah.
of people's families were really suffering because hustle culture was taking over and that was the way to go.
Yeah.
So then we've sort of swung the pendulum to the other side to where there's a lot of coasting to balance that. And really, we just need to swing to the middle.
We need to
Let's
swing to the
find a
middle.
balance.
Yeah, let's find a balance. Do you think that quiet quitting, Aubrey, could be passive aggressive?
So it's really interesting how I feel like there are a lot of different takes on quiet quitting. I'm looking at these different articles,
Yeah.
and I saw there was one quote where someone was sort of saying, I'm still putting in the same amount of work that I did before. Quiet quitting for me is just not being stressed out and giving myself ulcers. Like
Yes.
my
Yes.
actual personal life is what's more important. I'm putting in all the work that I need to without as much stress and anxiety. And I can get behind that.
I can too. Yeah. And actually, to be honest, I think we can do better work when that is the case.
Yes.
Right? Like if I don't think about our emails or work all weekend, I can come back and be much better on the microphone on a Monday than I could otherwise.
Yes.
Right?
And I think about my husband's job. He's in sales. There is no busy work. So he's either preparing sales demos or he's giving sales demos. And if he's not doing one of those other things or he hasn't been given a task, he's free to do what he needs to do during the day. And he still will sometimes put in, just because he has the time, maybe he'll put in more time to make an amazing presentation. He has a
Yeah.
very strong work ethic.
Yeah.
But because there's no busy work,
Yeah.
he does. It's like you said, you make the work you do more valuable. You have the time to do it.
Yeah.
But that's the tricky thing is like, do you feel comfortable with the amount of work you're putting in for the pay you're receiving? That's what you need. Do you feel guilty? Should you feel guilty? And that's where not like guilt should be the motivation.
Yeah.
But you should not be able to put in 1 hour's worth of work when you're getting paid 9 to 5 and feel comfortable with that.
Right.
Should not feel
Totally
that
agree.
is reasonable, in my opinion.
100%. I mean, eventually the company is not going to survive. Like it's
Yeah,
going to
right?
show up in the numbers. But,
Or
it's
you're
interesting-
not going to move on, because if you have
Yes.
if you have that potential to do 8 hours worth of work, then
Yeah.
think how much more you could be doing, right?
And I think on the other side, right? So there's two kind of arguments against this, right? One of them is kind of the work ethic, this shouldn't be okay, right? This shouldn't be okay. And then the
Right.
other side is ultimately, I mean, this is our opinion. I'm excited to see what our listeners think. They might have a very different
Definitely.
perspective, and
We'll
we
have
want to
to
hear
do,
from
like,
you guys.
social media posts on
Yes.
this so you can comment. Definitely come to YouTube.
Yeah.
This video will be on YouTube. Comment. Let us know.
Yes.
Do you see this? What do you think? We want to
Oh,
know.
yes, it's so good. I mean, the other side, as I was going to mention, is I know native speakers that don't agree with this, but I personally think that your job has to mean something. As I said earlier, there has to be some higher meaning, that it's fulfilling, like it fulfills something inside of you. So that's the one thing that I worry about with when people are quiet quitting. They're just doing the bare minimum and the work isn't fulfilling. If the work is fulfilling and you're being more efficient and you're balancing your mindset, the importance of family and being outside, whatever, that's great. But if you're just showing up, quiet quitting, bare minimum, and no meaning behind your work, you're missing a huge chunk of life.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting. There's a very big difference between work that is sort of a stepping stone, maybe not exactly what you want to be doing, but you're getting to where you need, because we get it. There have been times where I was working for that paycheck. It was not where I wanted to be forever. That's a very different situation from where you're starting to get to jobs where like, this is what I'm choosing to do. I could be somewhere else. I agree so much with you.
Yeah.
There is a certain amount of privilege in having a job that you're choosing and you're not working just for the paycheck. That we're not saying that's wrong. If you're in that situation, we get it. We have been there.
Yes.
We get it, right? Yeah. But if you are in a job where you could choose a different job, where you felt more meaning, where you felt more passion, definitely choose that job. Even if I would say, if you can make ends meet, if you can, even if it is a little bit of a pay cut, because you will have such better quality of life.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good, right? So you and I have both talked on this show about our first jobs, the jobs we've done, the jobs. I washed dishes at Friendly's and I hated it.
Potato
you open
factory.
The thing and the steam comes in your face. Yeah, the potato factory. Right. Every time I think of a potato factory, I'm going to think of you, Aubrey. I mean, we've done those things. But if you do have if you're lucky enough to be able to create a career where there could be meaning for you, then try to get that. And just one final curveball that I want to throw in the conversation for our listeners to think about. Everything we've said today, Aubrey, I want to know how much of it is influenced by American cultural norms and values, what we've been taught, like the stories we read as kids, the myths we heard, like the narrative, everything our parents have taught us. Like how much of this is cultural?
It is fascinating. I know when I moved to France, it was fascinating how much more laid back the work culture was. They would often take a break in the middle of the day just to hang out or have just like a break, you know, a siesta sometimes in some countries, right? A little bit of a nap. And I had great conversations where people would say like, I am a better worker. I am more effective because of this aspect of my work culture. Maybe not for every company. And so, yes, I want to know, what's it like for you? How do you think U.S. culture should be different? Maybe is yours preferable in some ways? Compare them. I want to know all of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you know, the Puritan work ethic, how large the U.S. economy has grown, there's a reason. Like that never could have happened, right? For better or for worse, if we didn't have these narratives that we tell ourselves, right? So there's really no reality, right? It's all relative to where we come from. That's the interesting thing. I don't know. I think it's great. This is good. So what should we leave our listeners with today, Aubrey?
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to think about these types of things. When you read a news article about quiet quitting, about slang coming from TikTok, about these changes, don't just read it and then move on. Think about it, right? Have a conversation with someone in English about it. Listen to a podcast about it. Go deeper like we are here. That's where real interest is generated and where you're going to have the information, the tools to have these great conversations yourself.
Wow, such a good topic. I'm so glad we talked about this today. I can't wait for you guys to let us know what you think about quiet quitting. Are you doing it? Do you know people who are doing it? Is it okay? What does your culture say about this? Tell us in the YouTube comments or wherever you connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram. We're all over the place,
We're
right,
everywhere.
Aubrey?
We're TikTok. On every social channel. Yes, and even in China, Bilibili. So yes, find us wherever you find social media and let us know.
Good stuff. Thanks for hanging out today, Aubrey. It's been great. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Lindsay. See ya.
Bye.